We are still enjoying the summer, but school will be back before we know it. And while the first day can bring some big feelings, the first day of middle school can be especially tough for both parents and students. Joining us now from LearningRx is Courtney Axline. Courtney, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So how can we start talking about then transition into middle school even in the summer?
Yeah, so it can be scary. You know, you're changing buildings, you know, most of the time and switching classes. And, you know, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that. And so when you can look at, you know, what is this next school year going to bring? How many classes do I have? You know, doing things like even, you know, practicing doing a lock, you know, the locker combination so that they can get used to that. Because again, there's not much time in between changing classes to go to your lockers. And so if you can reduce that anxiety, that will help your students tremendously. Also, go into those open houses, you know, meet the teachers, those, you know, open school nights where you can go and see where your classes are, kind of get an idea of, you know, where my classes are going to be. Do I have a lot of time in between? You know, reaching out and meeting the counselors. A lot of them will be more than happy to even meet with you with a Zoom meeting or at those meet the teacher nights. So there's a lot of things you can do now to just get your child prepared.
Yeah, and we want to talk about bullying too. That can come up in middle school. How do you go about just having a good conversation going into the school year?
Yeah, you know, that's a huge thing. You know, a lot of times it peaks in 6th grade, but being able to have that conversation with your kids about, you know, not being the bully and, you know, and also if things are happening to you, where you can go. And again, you know, meeting the counselors, meeting the teachers, getting them comfortable, that will give them a safe space to be able to go if they are having some problems.
And you can also plan about what you're going to be involved in, because there's sometimes some more doors open up with middle school.
Yeah, exactly. You know, look at what are the activities. You know, even a lot of middle schools, their athletic, you know, time frames and those seasons are a lot shorter. So you can look at more activities. You know, again, looking at band, chorus. A lot of times you can get into show choir now too. So just looking at what are you. What do you enjoy, and you know, what can we look at into this next school year?
Yeah, and imagine that goes for going into high school or maybe even going to college too, if your student's worried about that as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's a lot of doors,
maybe
like you said.
It depends parent involvement with some of those.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of doors that, you know, open up and a lot of things that you haven't been able to. And a lot of times we tell our kids, just try it. Try it once, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to do it again, but at least you know you tried and there's not that question there.
Yeah. All right, Courtney, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.